Let me check my Galaxy. Yep, 6
No, okay.
Give it to Shauna, please. Thank you, sir. Shauna, I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Okay, I'm going to take roll. Steve Dryer,
Here?
Mark Z,
Here.
Brian, is it
Hi, Hebel.
Heibel?
Hebel.
Hebel?
Yep.
Okay, I'll call you.
That's okay. That's fine.
Kyle Cook
Here.
and Todd McConnell.
Here.
Thank you. Meeting is called to order at 6:30.
Awesome, and we're rolling online?
We are.
Awesome. Next, let's go through this list here. Public comments on items not on the agenda.
The first person that's up to speak is Mike Frederick.
Is that about I'm assuming these speaker slips are for,
Everything on the agenda, not necessarily not.
Rezoning from the ag to the
okay.
commercial.
Okay, so
So,
we'll,
so that is the agenda.
right, so we'll wait on that.
So let's skip that.
But he gets to speak during that?
Yes. Everybody gets to speak during. This is just for items
Me?
not.
Mine is different.
I'm sorry.
Mine is different. Is that what you're asking?
No, yours is next. so
Yes.
you have to go.
That's what I'm saying. Yes, I have a different thing. So I'm publicly speaking real quick. Making myself publicly known.
Okay.
My shirt?
Sounds good.
Oh, we missed the Hawaiian theme again.
Yeah, he usually starts. Anyway, so my name's Brian Hebel. I live in Leafy Dell, the upper part, the older part, HOA 1. There is an island in the middle of Leafy Dell. If I just want to officially state, we kind of want to stop taking care of it. The city officially owns it, and I want to know what we should do. I don't know if it's, I just want to kind of get it on the agenda. Our HOA will be mailing the city officially with a letter, because we don't want to take care of it anymore, and it's an expense. And we're the only HOA taking care of it out of 3 in that neighborhood, and we're putting up a lot of money, and we don't know what to do with it anymore. So, that's it. Appreciate it. You guys have any questions, or can I?
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
I apologize for the mispronunciations.
Well, instead of going through the list, can I ask, is there anybody here to speak on anything that's not on the agenda today? I think everybody's for the agenda, so.
Makes it easier.
Seeing none, let's go ahead and move on. Approval of minutes from April 28th, 2026.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
Kyle and Mark.
Okay, thank you. So I need a vote from Brian,
Approve. Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Steve,
I'm going to abstain, I was not here.
okay. Kyle,
Yes.
and Todd.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Action item number 4, application 4/15/26, zoning map amendment, public hearing and vote. I also, to start this one, start with the city.
As far as a comment on the application, I would suggest you start with the applicant to explain.
If you'd like, okay, let's do that. Do we want to talk about,
Yeah, I want to ask just real quick, though, the process is a little bit askew, right, to normal, because this is land that that the city has not talked about annexing yet to the full extent and has not annexed it, so this is kind of what we're doing here, or what you guys are asking is kind of run parallel with the process. I just wanted to make sure it was open to everybody that we are talking about land that is still in the township, and what is going to happen tonight, whether we, or in the next meeting, is we will either recommend or not recommend the rezoning if council so chooses to annex.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. I'm Aaron Underhill and Hodge. I'm an attorney for the New Albany Company. And I'm going to let Jamie McNally with the New Albany Company do a lot of the presentation on this one. But yes, this is pretty typical. And when we did the original planned district back in 23, 24, we undertook a similar process where we got the annexation going, and that statutorily, under Ohio law, that takes about 4 months to get done. So we typically would start a zoning process while that's pending, but you're correct, there will be 2 separate actions that council would have to take, hopefully on the same evening if we get there. One would be to approve or disapprove of the annexation, and then secondly, following that would be to approve or disapprove the zoning.
Right. Thank you.
can share my screen with the maps too, if it's, we have a plug-in.
We'll give it a shot.
And it needs to be on three. But it may not come up.
I need my 13-year-old source.
Yeah, we could
Oh, we
probably
gotta wait for you to plug in.
do all of the,
Yeah, that's it.
all of the afterwards.
Let's take a couple.
I'd be fine with that.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I'm fine with whatever.
Oh, no,
Just- Yeah, I mean, however we want to do it, and we also could be.
Throw the wires in there.
All right, you ready? Let me see if I can get input number 3. There's 2.
That's true.
Oh, we have it.
I would
There we go.
comments for.
What's that?
both
We got it here.
apply to your.
Let me go to 2. I thought it was 3. We're going to 2. It's working.
Sign in too.
Never done it.
Brian, are you signed into the Wi-Fi?
You need some?
I was just gonna sign in, that's all. We're good. No, I can do it.
Good, okay.
Thanks, sorry about that. I'm Jamie McNally with the New Albany Company and the Johnstown Land Company. We're the applicant for, like Mr. Cook was saying, the rezoning. Because the property in blue is not yet in the city, we can't really zone it yet. But we want to predetermine recommended zoning so that if it does get accepted in the city, everybody's on the same page about what the intended use is. So a little background that Aaron was mentioning, the original application for this plan development includes this area that's shaded. This entire area that's shaded was one plan development that we got in place a couple years ago. The world was a little bit different then, and if you remember, at the time, we thought Intel was going to have about 30,000 employees on their campus. And we proposed, a mixed-use kind of village center type concept that would include multifamily, residential, et cetera, to support the Intel employees and the surrounding suppliers and the entire ecosystem. Obviously, Intel's still happening. We feel optimistic about the project coming online. The scope of it and the timing has changed a little bit since then. Over the last couple of years, our primary focus has been focusing on economic development, bringing jobs and tax base to Johnstown. And a few projects we've taken some really quality at-bats on. We've gotten second place on a couple great projects. We haven't landed a big fish yet, but we're trying to be patient to make sure we get the right first movers into this plan development. In the meantime, we've also been working on expanding the plan development. There's, over the series, over the last couple of years, we've filled in a couple of the missing teeth along Green Chapel so that nobody was left on an island, so everything's been filled in as well. To the left of the screen right now, if you remember, the Piper Farm got acquired and got rezoned for industrial use as well. And we believe that expanding the PD in this triangle, when I say triangle, I'm talking between Duncan Plains, US 62, and Green Chapel, that triangle is best positioned to be an economic driver or essentially a supplier park and industrial park. The intent is to look and feel somewhat as an extension of the existing business park, but the design standards would be distinctly different and unique to Johnstown. As we start to expand, we want to best position the sites. We have limited inventory right now, and we want to take these sites to market and to develop them. What we're asking is as we expand west of Clover Valley,
that this actually becomes an amendment to the plan development and becomes a new sub-area. All of these sub-areas are currently sub-area 1 with industrial uses, and sub-area 1E, what we're calling the blue area, would be an extension of the existing industrial use as well.
So I'll pause right there for a second. One thing I'll add is, we have basically with this amendment to keep it simple and not reproduce 60 pages of documents, and we've done this previously when we've added on sub-area 1. We're incorporating the use and development standards, obligations and rights that are in sub-area 1 in that original plan district. So things like buffering and landscaping, et cetera, are still applicable here, just the same as they are over to the east.
And if you remember, things were moving so quickly when Intel was first announced that when we decided to zone this as one plan development, we wanted a holistic, balanced tax base. So we created the different sub-areas based on different uses. Part of it was a little science and part of it was a little art based on the geometry of the site plan, knowing that the end user would ultimately potentially dictate how some of those boundaries get finalized, so.
All right. Any questions from the board?
Get on the line or just jump in if you want to start.
So, when I was reading through this, the glaring items that I found in here as part of the application, and I'm asking, like, maybe I've missed some things. Part of the application, it says that you need to list a separate list of property owners' names and addresses contiguous to and directly across the street from the property. That was not part of the application. I haven't seen that. I don't know if that was completed and it's just not in here.
There is some on the announcement too, or like the public hearing.
Oh, okay. I missed all that. The other piece that I noticed on here is that the ordinances that were listed are incorrect. They say chapter 1164, but then the items that are mentioned in here are all 1164E and E2.
You want to address that?
The articles that are in here are actually part of a different city ordinance.
Yeah, I don't know if that came off of the application that you guys had, or if that was a clerical error that we had on our side. I believe that when this PD district was actually added into the zoning, maybe the previous chapter was that, and the number, it's just literally one digit. So it's something that we can call this out if it still gets a motion to approval or a vote or whatever it may need to have today. We can just acknowledge that and have that fixed. But it is in here as 1164, which is agricultural. And so as much as I would love to keep 99 acres as agricultural, I think you guys obviously are applying for something different. So just something to call out, that we will make sure that that is
It's
noted.
1165, right?
Yes, the PD district is chapter 1165. This just states 1164 instead, which is AG.
So the other question I have is, as far as housing is concerned for the ordinance, there's a formula for the number of acres for housing and how far that can go from the PD area. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if anybody here knows what that formula is.
I know as of right now, it's like within a half a mile of the PD district is where they could hop, skip, and jump if they wanted to.
What is that?
But I believe it does change with the total number of acres. I think you want to expand on it. You can go right ahead, because I know you've had some involvement there.
Yeah, so it's actually one of the other topics, a related topic later on the agenda for today. But essentially, the way the PD goes back to the balanced tax base. The original plan development was based on the idea that there would be 1 or 3 units per every acre. So I'm using round numbers right now. The original PD was about 400 acres. So then there was a residential density of about 1,200 units.
That changed.
Now,
Original.
if Intel was happening full speed, 30,000 employees, there would be guardrails in place to protect the schools so that the product type and when those units come online to make sure that the city isn't like put in a bad position that can't absorb the units either. We never even got to that point. But as the PD expands, the way it's currently written, it's that residential density bank goes up. Which what we'll talk about later on the other topic is that as the residential density bank, I don't want to get too far ahead from the other topic, but we don't believe that it should be a 1-to-1 ratio either. And the product type that gets developed, what was originally going to be multifamily, that was projected a very, very low number of students for the schools. If you take 1,200 apartments and you transform those into homes, you would have a lot more students. So we would not support the idea of a 1-to-1 transfer if we did to transfer from apartments to residential, or sorry, to apartments to single family.
Important to note also that with the 99.4 acres that are the subject of this application, there can be no residential on there. The only residential can be over on these sub areas, which are 3 and 4, over near the Mink and Green Chapel intersection. Truth of the matter is, and as Jamie alluded to, when we get to the code amendment that's pending, we're trying to solve for the problem that you can't fit all those units there. And we'll get into that here momentarily.
Kyle? Oh, sorry, Todd, you don't know?
No, those are the things that when I was addressing this, when I was reading through this, those are the glaring things that I had noted in here.
All right, a question I have, I think people in the room might have, you talked about the triangle.
Yes.
Is your goal to develop the entire triangle?
Not necessarily. We've had numerous conversations with various owners in the area. Some are interested in selling, some aren't. The triangle is actually from Johnstown's comprehensive plan about where they want to best locate, I think they call it the enterprise zone, for job creation and tax base. Now, from a planning perspective, having residential closer to the school or downtown, that's a good argument for that. But there's 3 different zones. There's an agricultural zone, a residential zone, and an enterprise zone. This area, this planned development fell in Johnstown's enterprise zone or the comp plan. Now, you could make a case whether the multifamily should be in the enterprise zone or not, or should that be, the residential should be in the residential zone. Now, because of the product type that was being proposed a couple of years ago, because of the scale, having all that traffic, those 30,000 people, having homes in there was part of the argument where you had a little overlapping of zonage. But the entire triangle, I believe, is in the enterprise zone for Johnstown's comprehensive plan. That was just updated probably about 24 months ago or so. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember that.
Kyle, you have anything?
Is the map amendment the only thing holding us back from that also possibly being residential as opposed to data center and infrastructure?
In terms of this particular piece of property?
Yes.
I can't remember exactly which category you come into if you annex it, some sort of rural or agricultural designation here, which would bring with it some residential rights.
Yeah.
So that'd be automatic upon annexation. So this essentially takes away that ability. Now, I'm not saying it's really dense. It's probably 1 unit per 2 acres or something like that. I haven't looked at your code recently, but yes, this would be the mechanism to eliminate any possibility of any residential there.
Just for the record, I wasn't asking to eliminate residential. Yeah, I was asking so essentially you're saying there's no possibility of residential being there no matter.
Well, I think from a legal standpoint, if there were an annexation without a zoning, then there would be the legal possibility of residential being there, probably at a more rural density. But from a practical standpoint, I guess we would have to rezone to get to a density that probably made any financial sense for anyone to develop residentially, if we weren't doing this zoning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
No, yes, no, but go ahead.
I was trying to keep it in order in mind.
It's any order you want. Brian, you have anything?
Not right now, I want to listen to the public.
I mean, you kind of alluded to the Piper Farm.
That's what my question was, yeah.
So I think we can all, obviously we can assume, we see where the city of New Albany is and how those lines want to meet up. And can obviously appreciate the work that you guys are doing to help the city of Johnstown in a sense, as many people may not believe. This is one of those, right? New Albany could just gobble this all up and we have no say. So I kind of want to throw that out there as a devil's advocate here, is that you are providing the opportunity to Johnstown. Is there possibility in this that when it comes through, it does not necessarily go into sub-area 1E, maybe it goes into like a sub-area 6 that creates something different? Or I think sub-area 5 is kind of an any of the above, right? So it could be allowed for mixed use, could be allowed for residential, it could be allowed for industrial, commercial.
Do you respect the Piper in particular?
Piper one, I'm not overly concerned about. It's already owned by EdgeConneX. I think that's an obvious of what's going on there. But, if that comes into the city as well, then, right, we're adding, I'll state the obvious, we're adding more data centers on that property. Whether the city is able to get that, or it stays with the township, or the city of New Albany gets it, everybody knows that EdgeConneX is a data center company. Or if you didn't, that's what's going to happen to it. For this particular plot is what I mean, right? Instead of having it be called out blatantly as data center and industrial, is there an opportunity to make that as sub-area 5, which I know is kind of any of the above?
We don't think it's probably the highest and best use for that particular site to be commercial residential. We do think that there are opportunities to add commercial and residential to Johnstown, but probably not in what's in blue. Whether it's closer to the Green Chapel and Mink Corner, anchored there, or some other place that, is better situated. We've also been working with ODOT to study the traffic patterns of US 62 and what works best. I think at some point, there's going to be additional commercial and residential in the sub-market. I just don't know exactly where that's going to be. You can see on the map, there is a stream that goes right through this site right here, 1E, that probably is not going to get moved.
Yeah, so that leaves it to be not as beneficial too. So would that in turn though cause you to maybe conjoin that into the Piper setup because it's conjoined together and you wouldn't necessarily need to utilize that whole plot?
So if the city of Johnstown would like to have the Piper Farm in the city of Johnstown, by annexing 1E, it gives the opportunity for the city to then have contiguous
Sure. Yeah, 'cause it touches.
ground to bring in the Piper Farm into Johnstown. Because like you said, the use is the use there and it's going to happen. So it's really a question of where those tax dollars go at that point, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's obvious, yeah, it's not bringing the amounts of jobs and things that we want, but at the same time, it's tax dollars that are needed, so. I think the only other thing that I really have, because I've done a ton of research on this, but is that, I know you've mentioned it, that not every property would potentially be developed over there. But in the instance of representing the citizens of Johnstown, I'd ask that you go knock on everybody's door and give them at least an offer. And then if they say no, then that's their choice at that point, and then we have something else that says, we've tried, right? I can already tell you, I think Mr. Park is never going to leave. I don't think he's ever going to leave his bamboo plants, and I don't know if he's here tonight. It would be awesome to actually meet him, but that's just kind of the case, right? I think that helps.
I hear you loud and clear. We can't comment on current active negotiations, but I don't know. We hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to answer anything to it. I just,
I'm trying to answer without answering.
there may or may not be some people who live over in that area that may have not heard anything from New Albany Company, right? So that's all I ask is, we know that you guys have been, I will play devil's advocate on this, right? That you guys have been great neighbors so far. You've helped out, you've designed the whole entire PD thing and saved us months, if not years, worth of work in order to put that document together and have helped kind of frame a lot. But at the same time, it's tough because not everybody gets the same message, and we have a hard time with communication of how to get that message out. So it's more so why I'm trying to state it is if, we're on the record here, if you can go make sure that everybody's had their door knocked on, or even just have an introduction to them that gets involved. I think there's been some neighborhood meetings over there with the other development that we have. I don't know why the name is escaping me right now.
Yeah.
Cologix, yes, thank you. I think they held a neighborhood meeting. I thought I read about that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
attended those meetings, yes.
Yeah, so that's just the other piece that I'm just trying to state out in public so everybody understands that if they needed to reach out or they wanted to reach out, or if you guys haven't reached out to each resident over there, then
No, Mark, I appreciate it. We, different people have different opinions about large land development or New Albany Company, but I'd say we've done everything that we're going to do today. The conditions in the submarket have changed greatly when Intel came, and then Intel slowed down, and then Intel's picking up. So we're doing the best we can. We are always available to all the neighbors, and we're also being, we're not going anywhere. Even though we sold the land to Cologix, we're still participating in meetings with Cologix and the neighbors, because we have a lot invested in the area, mentally, emotionally, and financially. So I think it's one of the benefits of having one large-scale master planner for some of these things. So.
yeah, I think it's kind of obvious that you guys are going to be developing quite a bit that's all around it. So we'd hope that, and I know of some of the other conversations that have been had of other areas that are around the city, obviously not necessarily with your guys' involvement, but with housing developments, things of that nature.
Yes.
So I think it's an obvious that you guys will be around for quite some time. And you guys have worked really well alongside what we've done. So I think that's a continued relationship to try to keep somewhat positive.
Yeah, and we're focused on what's best for Johnstown's long-term future too. We don't, if we're adding any kids to the school district, we want to be thoughtful about it and have a long-term plan for it. So in the short term right now, we think the best thing is to increase the job opportunities and the tax base as well. And at times, we have to say no to other development, just where we have the opportunity to potentially flip the land, but we don't want to sell the land to somebody that's just gonna put up a warehouse, move refrigerators from one end to the other end, and then leave once their tax abatement's up. We're looking for key anchors that are gonna make multi-decade investments in the community, and we also expect buyers to join the Chamber of Commerce, be civically involved with the Johnstown Foundations, and be members of the community. It's the exact same way that we've expected the same thing from companies that have moved into New Albany as well over the years.
Yeah.
But we want to do it in a Johnstown way.
Appreciate that. I think just to reiterate Mark's point at the beginning is making sure that everybody is getting a fair shake, that everybody's getting an offer. I know you can't discuss that, but what you call missing teeth are essentially teeth being pulled out,
Yes.
So those missing teeth, let's make sure they're at least being offered something.
Yes.
So that's the journey. That's our journey to get to this point. It's been up and down. It's been all kinds of stuff. But I just would like to reiterate, if you could help me explain it, the process that we're going through, it's this way for a reason. We decided to do this to streamline things, and I don't want anyone to have to spend their time speaking about it. So if we could can somebody help me can you guys help me address that process?
Sure. So, as is typical of a lot of smaller communities who haven't had development pressures over the years, and there's a ton of them. Johnstown's code, when we came here and pitched this idea, didn't really deal with this sort of a scenario with a dynamic and large development. And so we partnered with the city at that time to craft a planned district ordinance that essentially had a minimum of 350 acres as a requirement in order to use it, and that was to make sure that master planning was at the forefront and you weren't having dozens of applications filed all at once for smaller parcels that would take up your time and resources. So, once that was approved, we then, the planned district is unique and is used really a lot throughout central Ohio in that you can write your own development standards and have a back and forth with planning commissions and city councils and set forth regulations that are particular to the property. And so those regulations were the result of a lot of work with staff, with NKSK, who's your consultant, multiple meetings with the Planning Commission and City Council at the time, and we came up with a document that's about that thick, right? And is still the basis for the development standards that we're using here today. But a lot of those development standards are tried and true and practical in terms of we've used them elsewhere. Especially where we have situations where we have an industrial development next to residential. For instance, we have commitments where there are shared boundary lines in that circumstance, that mounding of at least 6 feet, that's at least 6 foot tall with plantings on top to get to, it's either 12 or 14 feet of total screening height to an opacity of 75% is the requirement. So, that's something that you'll see throughout the business park. And, we have these similar conditions in New Albany over the years. So we've tried to implement best practices, and that document that we wrote was the result of a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but is the basis for what we're doing tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for clearing that up. Any other questions from the board? Thank you. We also have a relationship with our community. We'd love to hear from our community. We love when they come in here. I hate to be the bearer of bad news because we have a lot of speakers tonight. Each speaking slip is worth 3 minutes. And we're going to stick to that standard, setting the precedent moving forward. So I'll control the timer unless Shauna wants to, but I can control the timer. I just want you to know before you step up here, this 3 minutes is the rule. So you can take advantage of your time as much as possible. So if we could, go ahead, Shauna.
Speaking on this comment,
What's that?
was the majority of the people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody but Brian.
Yeah, I'm not.
Very interesting to hear their comment, because I want to let you know, first of all, I have been the zoning chairman of Monroe Township for about the last 25 years.
Pause real quick, introduce who you are
Mike
and
Tedder.
where you're from, so that.
From Johnstown, out on
The end.
Clover Valley Road.
We don't
And then we can
need to
start.
give addresses anymore.
Just
Okay.
name.
And that's okay, Mike Tedrick. As I've just said, I've been the zoning chairman for the last 20 to 25 years in Monroe Township. And when I got the letter, and I know how this goes, because I got a meeting next Tuesday night to rezone from either residential or agricultural to commercial. But when I got the letter, which I know everybody's supposed to get to let you know they're going to do the rezoning, first thing I did was call Woody Fox, our zoning inspector. And I said, how's Johnstown rezoning Monroe Township? That's supposed to be in front of my committee. That's supposed to be my letters going out. And he said, oh, didn't you know that they rezoned that to Johnstown's? After what I just heard, no, they haven't. It's in a Monroe Township at this point, okay? So I was a little wondering, and he said, well, didn't you hear? And we do have one of our township trustees, Mike, over there in the corner. And no, I was never told, but Woody said, well, as soon as they annexed into Johnstown, they immediately put in for the rezoning. And I'm going, really? Oh, this property that he was pointing to is my property lines with them, okay? So I have an interest in this one. The other thing is, when you do annex something into Johnstown from Monroe Township, which is where I'm from, could you send out a postcard to somebody that says, we're your new neighbors? I put an extra $1 on the zoning application or something, to pay for the thing, because everything has to be paid for. But we had no idea. And I spoke to some of my neighbors who are sitting here. They did not know that either. So now that I hear it is not in Johnstown, you guys need to come to us first. And then we'll go to Johnstown, okay? So anyway, but this is very interesting to hear this tonight. So anyway, please, when you do annex, send a postcard. We're your neighbors. We want to know what's going on too, okay? My committee, just like you guys, listen to the neighbors as much as anything. You let your council worry about the money and this and that. And no, I have not been approached by the New Albany company, okay? We kind of like look at you guys as like the Michigan football team. Most of us neighbors don't really care for you. And no, they haven't approached me. Some of the neighbors have, some of the neighbors have not. What you guys said, I agree with you 100%. Come talk to us. If you really want that in your development, make us an offer, see what we're willing to do. So I'm agreeing with your zoning committee, okay? But anyway.
Thank you, Mike.
The other thing.
3 minutes, Mike.
He's doing great.
He is doing
Yeah,
great.
We do have to stick to precedent.
That's okay. We also, in our township.
Thank you, Mike.
We do not have the infrastructure for water and sewer.
Hey, just to be clear, and I know he said it there at the end, we have not annexed anything.
Right.
Yeah. I just didn't want that to get lost,
If you
yeah.
have any questions about the Piper Farm, that my committee we rezoned. Since the 3 minutes are up, you can come talk to me, but because it was so large and they were only going to use 10 acres, that's what we did.
Sure.
Zoning did that.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll re-add on to there too, is that any landowner, like any city or township or area around here has next to zero power about annexation. The landowner has to come forth and request that annexation. So it is not Johnstown against Monroe Township. Trust me, I want that relationship to be better than ever. Same thing with Jersey Township, same thing with every single township around here. And I know that that was kind of a battle for quite some time. So I'm stating that Johnstown's not trying to go around anybody and say, hey, we want to annex you.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times we
Well,
don't.
I've ever been to one of your meetings, although we've had some of your members over the years come to a couple of ours because they lived out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make the point that we don't want it to seem that we're trying to annex things in. The landowners are the ones who approach and bring that up to us. So it's the same, anybody who lives within city limits, if your property touches city limits, you are welcome to ask to annex into the city.
Thank you.
There's a Tim. Are you speaking on this project?
Well, I had a question, I guess. If I want to speak on both, do I get 3 minutes to each?
That's a really good
Where's
question.
Teresa?
We're going to need you to fill out another slip.
I just want to make sure I wasn't using my 3 minutes up on this one.
Well-
More important.
Do you have something on this one?
Yeah.
If you could just state your name when you get up to the microphone for the viewers online.
Tim Swalger, Johnstown, out in Monroe Township. On this one, as Mike had mentioned, the Piper Sod Farm, I did get a little, and I appreciate that you mentioned about annexation, because they said if the city wants it in, I'm like, that's a property owner's decision, so I do appreciate you mentioning that. It's not what the city or you guys, anyone wants, it's what the property owner wants. The concern I have with this property is just the impact study. Is someone doing an impact study from the water, sewer, and traffic side of it? That's really the critical infrastructure that someone has to do before we continue to annex and add any of these projects. I feel like a lot of that just keeps being built behind, gets further and further pushed back. And each project that gets brought on impacts that further. So we want to make sure we look at that. And then on the other comment, I just want to clarify, as far as annexing into Johnstown, or no offense, they're developers, right? They're here to make money. That's great. They do a good job. I don't have any real issues. We work well with them, but never forget they're a developer and you're the city, and we have to look out for the residents. They do a really good job, but also realize a lot of that land, New Albany's not going to annex north of Green Chapel. They're not going to annex land and build houses in the Johnstown Monroe School District. There's a lot. So don't sell ourselves short on what we're capable of doing and what we want, just because there's a threat of other annexation out there. Do what's best for the Johnstown community regardless. And I really have very little belief that the city of New Albany is looking to annex further up and build homes with outside of their own school district, and they also have sewer and water issues when they get further up as well to supply that. So I just want to make sure we're aware of that and not really be as concerned with somebody else annexing it in. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. He was. Together, we make one good. person.
Under this one, isn't it?
Phil Wagner, Superintendent, Johnstown Monroe Schools, 85 West Douglas. I just wanted, if you give me a minute here, I want to see if we can get our technology to work. I just wanted to remind, Mr. Swager talked about impact. I want to remind everyone where we are with the schools and, making sure that we know what the impact is going to be on the schools and what our capacities are. Mr. Swager obviously talked about impact in general, so that's important. Okay, I'll do this really quick. Stay inside my 3 minutes. Plenty of copies there. So I put it up on the screen, it's hard to see it. But I just want to show you, as the schools, what we have. So right now, when you look at, I'll run through this quickly. When you look at what I have organized here is we have our current 4 school buildings. We added an addition to the high school. So we now have the full build out in that building. So when you look at everything at our building capacity right now, we can have just over 24, I'll call it 2,500 students, it's 2,484. That is how many students we can take in the capacity right now in our school district. We're running into some level of compression right now because we've lost homes. So we have lost over 100 students in the last 18 months or so because of the loss of homes. We are seeing a more transient population, but definitely lost some students. So when you look at our current capacity right now, if everything is linear and every student fits in every building they're supposed to, we have a capacity right now, and I updated this yesterday, for 956 more students in the school district. And that's important to know. So then the question is, we know we have a model that we built out, and so we could take, under this current model, again, and I'm going through this quick, it's about 2,400, almost 2,500. We have a model that we could almost triple the size of our current student body, but it would cap out at 4,584, so just about almost 4,600 students. In order to get to that next level, we need a new high school, we need a new elementary school, and then we would reconfigure the district. And again, because I'm doing this fast, I have a model to show how that looks too. That's about $100 million by our current estimates right now if we had to build the high school and the elementary school. So just want to make sure this is on the forefront, because any parcel of land that transfers, we need to know what the impact is for water, sewer, traffic, but also the schools. Mr. McNally's right when we talked earlier, because when the initial project, we looked at 1,200 units and did a really an impact on what the residential would be, and because of the products, it was about 60 to 70 students. If we start transferring some from what I think we're calling a residential bank or a housing bank, we have to know what that impact is going to be. We have to update our data in the schools, and it's been some time since we've done this, but generally between 0.8 and 1.2 students are generated out of between an apartment and a house. So call it an even one, if you will. So if you were to transfer 600, let's just say in this example, from the bank and put it into residential housing, that could be 600 students. And then again, if everything's linear in the world, we can probably handle that, but it's only going to be for so long. Housing costs or price points are going to be very significant, because the more expensive the home, the later the students, come into the school district. And we're seeing that a little bit right now. Am I at 3 minutes? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Wagner.
Thank you.
Did you say the more expensive the house, the later it is the kids get into?
Generally, we're seeing that right now. So if you have more affordable housing, you will see, students will pull through 13 grade levels. The more expensive the housing stock, typically it becomes more of a second home. Mm-hmm. So then you'll see, so when I say, again, linear model, but you can load your middle school and high school and fill those to capacity before you get to the other buildings. So
Right.
happy to share any more data when it's available. We have more
you.
time.
Thank you, sir.
I listened to the plan.
If you could say your name in the microphone.
No need for.
There's
no
people
need-
watching
no need for address.
online.
Robin Tedrick.
Thank you.
So I heard what you had to say. I didn't understand a lot of it, I'll be honest. This might sound snarky, but I really want to know, I live on Clover Valley Road, that's up against, when you're talking about developing. Am I the missing teeth or broken teeth? I don't remember what terminology you used. That you kind of pushed to the side and said, yeah, that's just the missing or broken teeth.
I can
What?
answer your question if you want to cut.
Yeah.
So
I can give the short.
I mean, I would say the- I
I'll
would
give her the
say-
short easy because he's only got the 3 minutes. This was really these other pieces that were over here. There was a couple of plots that were in between. What they have here is, it's really open. There's not one individual island other than Mr. Park.
Okay.
So, no.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so no, and when they say missing teeth, they more so mean people that they haven't been able to work a deal out with to,
Okay.
you know, they don't mean it derogatory.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
No. I get it. I mean, it's.
Along Green Chapel, east of Clover Valley, there were a few parcels that were not included in the original plan development. So when you looked at the original plan, it looked like there were missing teeth in the plan. We have since acquired all those parcels and filled everything in.
Oh.
So that's what we say when we mention the missing teeth, or the kind of, rounding out.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah. So I don't, it's not necessarily the same condition west of Clover Valley, so.
One more question if I have time.
Yeah.
So,
They'll have to answer.
the traffic right now on our stretch of Clover Valley is horrendous. We have a camera that faces the front. We have over 500 cars and trucks a day. And they're just, this was a sleepy little road up until this recent development started, not yours, but on the other side. And I wondered about the impact that you're going to have on all of our infrastructure as well, and how that's being worked out to give people a break. It's dangerous on our road right now.
What I can tell you from what I've heard from council meetings and from Mayor Hollis. Mayor Hollis has been in touch with the city of New Albany as well as the police department in New Albany. And then that is also a safety and service committee piece.
So that's being discussed.
It is.
They've reached out to the city, they've reached out to actually the personnel who are working off of 62 to see what kind of work hours they can ensure that they're not out there in rush hour in the morning and rush hour in the evening.
Well, I can show you a lot of videos where it will tell you the traffic pattern. I mean, it just lays it all out. And
Yeah.
if anybody's interested in seeing that, you can have full access to our cameras.
Yeah, and that would be more so for council and safety and service committee.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. So walk me through this board. We have these 3 items. We got 4, 5, and 6, right?
Yeah, so we're on 4 right now. It's an application, so we have had public hearing and voting on the application in itself as an individual piece of our object of the application. The application is just for a map amendment.
How are we voting on something if we don't officially even own anything?
Right.
We're
So-
getting the process rolling so that if this does go through and they do decide to annex in, then it is already all set.
So
So
for
they don't
those
have to
that,
come back to us and delay this
Right.
months out.
But how do we even have rights to vote on anything?
we are only making recommendations.
Yeah.
Right.
So as a board, we make recommendations to council. Council is the one that enforces
Enforces, yeah.
whatever
Thank
they
you for
choose,
bringing
whether
those
it goes
into my
against
record.
planning and zoning or with.
City have anything to add?
To answer your question, Brian, if council so chooses to annex, they will either take our recommendation or not.
Yep. Yeah, and then council,
We can
but that doesn't have to happen first, before it comes to us.
It does not.
That's just our
They
land.
can go on.
It can, because-
Concurrent, they're going to sequential, because they're
Yeah.
going at the same
Okay.
time.
Okay. How, your question going back to the landowners, if they weren't notified of, I guess they weren't because it wasn't annexed. So
Correct.
They wouldn't be,
There
so
you go.
if the current landowner, you guys,
Really is.
are
That's what I'm saying.
annexing,
Like, I feel
or
like
you want to annex,
it's all
that's your goal, obviously.
Tonight or 3 separate?
3 separate. What is the past precedent? I'm new on this council, by the way, so I'm going to ask for a dumb question. What's been the past precedent we have set? I don't know if anyone on this board knows, when something gets annexed and someone gets notified. What have you guys done in the past?
So for an annexation, we are required to file, so an annexation starts with the county, actually, right?
Not to cut you off, but I think, Brian, you're asking something that would be actually a question of the city. Because it would be our responsibility to notify Mr. and Mrs. Tedrick of the fact that they've been annexed. And I think that's a great point, is that we should reach out and say hello if you are in the city.
And they wouldn't have to.
Right, no, New Albany Company
Right.
would not be, or Johnstown Land Company would not be the ones doing that introduction.
And you also have the right to just take it.
Yes.
So, first of all, I guess, as far as the Tedricks are concerned, they're not part of the annexation, and we could not annex them without their permission anyway, based on the procedure we're using, because 100% of the owners with this procedure that are affected by the annexation would be annexed, have to sign the petition. So they did not sign the petition, nor were they asked to. Under state law, it says that when an annexation is filed with the county, so that's the act of bringing the property into the city's jurisdiction, that property owners adjacent to or across the street from the property are to be notified. And so we provide that list of owners, and we send out notices to those owners. As far as the zoning's concerned, there's I think it's a similar, I can't remember off the top of my head what your code says. Some places are a certain distance from the property line of the perimeter boundary of your zoning. Some are also adjacent to or across the street. I can't remember here. We did in fact provide that list to the city along with this application. I'm not sure why it's not in the packet, if it's not. And then it would be, in fact, be the city's responsibility to send out those notices of this zoning.
All right, so changing subjects here, I want to clear up some things. Teresa's not here tonight. We have one application with 2 votes on it. Am I reading that correctly?
Or is it one application with 3 votes?
Well, there's confusion on the board. There's one application that we're discussing right now, and then we have a hearing for the PUD district, and then we have a hearing for the text amendment. So
You have
the
3
way
votes.
there's 3 votes.
There's 3 votes,
Or
one on
3?
each, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay, so 1 vote for the map amendment, and then there's going to be possibly, right, 1 vote for the PD district, and then 1 vote for text amendment?
I believe the application needs to be, your recommendation needs to be made because it's got to go to council within 30
Right.
I
This
think,
is, it's like every time we sit up here, something, like, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. We understand what the process that we need to go through is without Teresa here, and that we understand.
right.
Okay.
So, Mr. Dyer, if I can clarify, if it's okay. So the first matter that we've had the hearing on is the actual application relating to this particular piece of land, the 99.4 acres. The second piece of legislation is something that we've been jointly working with city council on, and at our request, city council has initiated a process to change the planned district zoning regulations in your code. So that's a second application. So it relates to what we're doing here, but it's really unrelated because it relates to your underlying code. And then the third text amendment relates to the creation of new community authorities and the when a property must join a new community authority, so that's the third one. So they're all separate pieces of legislation.
Okay, and as far as we're concerned on this board, we have a vote on an application, and then we have a recommendation and a recommendation.
That's right. Recommendation really in all 3 instances.
Really? Yeah, I mean, that's all we do anyways. That's true.
Right. That needs to be made within 30 days of us getting this.
Yep.
So that does not mean the council needs to get it in 30 days. It means that we have 30 days to make a decision.
Take action on a recommendation.
So that means that we could not make a decision today, have another meeting, make the decision then. We just have to make it by that second meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
No, it's all right, yeah. Am I,
That's correct.
sorry, Don.
Nope, I found it. Thank you.
Okay, so we heard from the public, we talked. Is there any comments from the city? Anything to add?
No, I don't believe so. I'll be glad to answer any question, but clearly I'm not an attorney, and I've not been here for the entire process, so I'm a little hesitant to add. I think what's been described is accurate. It's a little different that you're not running in a sequential process, but I understand why. That's been explained. So you're just doing multiple things at the same time, so it'll culminate in the ultimate goal of it being annexed.
All right, so now we're up front we're faced with the map amendment. Looking around this board, looking around this room, I'm leaning,
I didn't hear what you said. You said faced with something.
oh, like we're at this point now where we talked about this. We heard from the city, we heard from the application, we heard from our residents. Now, it's kind of leaning on this board. And what I'm picking up is seeming like maybe might want to table it.
So my thinking is to table it because the information that's in here has the wrong numbers. Based on the language that's in here in changing the code, codified ordinance of 1164, it's not the right code to be able to change. It says in here if there's a yes vote, if it's affirmative, it's going to change that. That doesn't exist. So we need to make sure that the numbers that are in here align with the 1165, which we know to be correct. But just the wording in here, I'm not comfortable with having the incorrect wording. It's going to get changed.
Yeah.
Great.
If that's your only hang-up on it, we can note that in here, and we can still approve based on.
You can
correct that
Yeah, you
through-
just, I
as long as
approve
that's
as long as that's
perfect.
corrected, yeah,
As corrected.
yeah.
Yeah.
What does the rest of the board think? Any comments? Brian?
Yeah, a couple of residents and Dr. Wagner brought up impact studies across multiple things. Is that already in the comprehensive code or comprehensive plan from 2 or 3 years ago? Has that been done?
I can answer that.
So can I compound on that?
Yeah.
Sorry. So I know you mentioned earlier about the traffic studies and stuff on 62. I was at a meeting a couple months ago in New Albany that showed the 62 corridor and the expansion and the changes in there. They were talking about the traffic studies that have already been done along that area. Are you suggesting that we would need additional traffic studies? Or to be able to incorporate the studies that have already occurred in order to widen that road, to be able to make it 4 lanes?
If I
That's just a
understand,
proposal, so.
so if I understand the question correctly, the answer is both. We have to do both. The 62 work, whether if none of us do anything right now, the improvements to 62 are going to happen. ODOT's already set the wheels in motion for improvements to 62, from 161 up to, Kroger, yeah. And I think they have it broken up into 5 or, I can't remember off the top of my head, I think it's 5 or 6 phasing sections right now. The timing of that and the funding mechanisms of that are still a little bit, need to get worked out. And a lot of that might actually get dictated on the momentum of Intel as that kind of progresses. But we don't want to make any decisions in isolation when it comes to planning, particularly with roadways. Now, as part of the final development plan, so let's assume that we get everything coordinated correctly with ODOT and the TID. As part of the final development plan too, the city could require the end user to do their own traffic study or a traffic analysis, now, Tim also mentioned water and sanitary. Tim and I are actually from the same hometown, which actually doesn't see a lot of economic development right now, which, there's growing pains with economic development and growing pains with the city, but trust me, take the growing pains over the shrinking pains any day. Because I've grown up in towns that were shrinking. Having less opportunity, knowing that there's jobs moving in here is great, knowing that you have opportunities for your kids to stay if you want them to stay. So I got sidetracked, but anyways, the water and sanitary, we've been working with the city for about 2 years on a water and sanitary plan. The water and sanitary to serve this area, the capacity's there. The designs are done. Actually, the design is going through final permitting to come through the plan development right now. We would have to update the plan to refine the plan west of Clover Valley. But the water reservation, the sanitary reservation is already accounted for in our development agreement with the city. And the funding of the water and sanitary would be paid 100% by the end users
or New Albany Company, and then there's a reimbursement program through the new community authority, but all development would pay for development, so.
And that was a piece that was brought up on when this came to council first as well.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about the new community authority and the financing structures of that probably later in the agenda. But we feel very confident that the water and sanitary is accounted for because the well fields recently in Johnstown got certified. And the city's working, actually, the city of Johnstown, the water treatment plant that's under construction right now, the city of Johnstown uses about, that's going to have 1 million gallons per day capacity. The water treatment, there's about 600,000 gallons of use per day, generally. So there's a lot of capacity in the short term right now. Once that water treatment plant is constructed, the city's going to need about 900,000 gallons of water uses to cover the debt service. So we need development in the area.
And sorry, you said there's already an agreement with the city for the water? for the
Well,
water and such?
I shouldn't say that. We are finalizing that agreement. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
It's not passed through legislation, but we've been working on this for about 18 months. So I think we have final comments from everybody involved, but.
In fairness to Jeff, he just
Yeah.
joined you recently, and there's a lot to get his head around, and so
Yeah.
we kind of pumped the brakes a little bit to allow Jeff to catch up a little bit and get input from those that are, using input from before we move that forward. I did want to say one quick thing. I didn't want to, Jamie said something earlier about the community planning that went on by the city and hiring MKSK, et cetera. One of the great accomplishments of a public-private partnership is when the public entity puts forth what it wants for a particular area of town, and then the private entity is able to follow through on that. So I just want to reiterate that this zoning does in fact further what your community plan recommends for the area.
Thank you. Point of order, we've had the applicant come up and speak several times, and then we told our residents that you get 3 minutes and that's it. So I would like to open the floor back up to the community. If anybody didn't put in a speaker slip, we're still going to respect the 3-minute rules, but I'd like to hear from people who haven't spoken yet. So if you come up and say your name, we are still going to stick to the 3-minute rules.
Phil Baker, I live right across the street.
His name?
Phil Baker.
Thank you.
What you haven't mentioned, we went to the state meetings too on traffic. A proposed road along the tree line to reroute Clover Valley. Can you talk about that?
I can, yeah.
Okay. Which would come along the tree line and then beside my property and swing out. We were told it'd be 5 lanes, 240
Hey,
feet.
Philip?
No, you're fine.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was going to have you address us and the whole community.
So we went to the state meetings, we were told there's 2 routes. One would be along that tree line, across the street, run close to my property, but kind of swing out because New Albany owns the property beside me where the pipeline went through. And the road would swing out through there and then go maybe not quite a quarter mile down Duncan Plain and then curve and go across Duncan Plain, parallel with Clover Valley, but west of it, through the fields up to 37. So
Reconnect.
Tedricks, they wouldn't have to worry about traffic because the new Clover Valley would alleviate all the traffic on their road, other than the people
It's
living
supposed
on the
to
road.
cul-de-sac it basically at the
Yes.
church.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Well, we're going to,
But hang on, Jamie, I'm sorry. We're still going to stick with public comments for a second.
yes, come on up.
I mean,
Please state your name and understand that we're going to still do the 3 minutes.
I don't think you
Thank you.
you don't get a punch every time you talk at these meetings. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get a free something at the end,
I feel like
you
you're part
know?
of my family.
Yeah.
Since we've been here so many times. The one thing, I'm Alan Benton.
Thank you, Alan.
Johnstown, Ohio. So, one thing that I would suggest to you is, I'm all for industrial, right? And I think that's what really helped the city, right? The tax base from that. The one question that I have is, how does that impact your traffic flow? So originally, it was going to be housing down there, so the housing would stay down there and not actually pass through the town. So if you put a bunch of industrial there, that's going to overload Clover Valley, it's going to overload 62. Because that's when you look at the traffic studies today, that's where you're having a problem, is in the morning and then in the evening going back outside of the town. So if you add industrial down there, that's going to add more traffic because it's going to create more jobs, which is going to pull from people that live outside the city but has to get there. So I would expect that you would see an increase in traffic on both Clover Valley and 62 at the wrong time of the day. So I would suggest that the city or zoning or the New Albany company look at how can they use their influence to try to help alleviate the problems that we have within the city. Because what you were proposing to do is great, except for the fact that we have a traffic problem at 62 and 37. So I don't know if there's any way that they could help assist us as we ask for help. So thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. Make it the state of Ohio problem.
Mr. Tedrick, would you like to finish?
It's what I started to say when I sat down. I've had a lot of people call me over the years and go, we want to put a housing development in Monroe Township. And we're going, sorry, and I did retire from the Board of Health, so I know a little bit about that too. But you have to have the infrastructure, you have to have the water and sewer, especially if you're going to have the homes. We have none of that. And when I tell people that, they're kind of taken back because they think Johnstown just ran it all over creation in Monroe Township. And we all know it, they didn't. So you have to take that into account with the water and sewer. Water you can run anywhere. Sewer's going to take a while with a lot of EPA and other entities that have to approve that. Is there any questions you guys had about Piper? Because
No.
yes, there's going to be a data center. They came out of Chicago. The only reason my committee approved that was because they said they were going to use a small amount of the 118 or 124 acres that Randy owned. Randy's on my zoning committee, so I'm very privy to some of that information too. But because it was a small amount in the middle, that's why we approved it for that purpose. Just to clear it up.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the community?
Do we want to invite Dr. Wagner back up to?
No, that's not the point of that. I was, he didn't have, I wanted him to finish his thought.
Okay.
So any comments from the board?
Well, no, I do want Dr. Wagner to come back up because I'm worried about schools.
Oh,
This
I don't
isn't,
think
this
that's-
isn't about
that's not this
residential. This is,
application.
we're talking about infrastructure.
But he was worried about it.
But that's not this application.
Oh, he's not.
Dr. Wagner, did you have anything else to add?
No, I don't at this time.
Thank you.
I think at the next time I can jump in.
We still have two others we have to get to.
Yeah, so right now, we're talking about just application zoning map amendment. That's the only thing we're looking at right now. We're not considering the other two on the.
And I'm not trying to be rude, Brian, but
Isn't this-
public comment
aren't
is
we up for,
actually
like, zoning this-
comment,
is
not
that residential
discussion
right now?
usually. What?
Are we not doing, wasn't this
It's
potential?
it's
I know
currently
that-
AG right now.
AG, but we want to zone it industrial sub-area, but then I thought.
We want to zone it.
So here, we can't rezone it anything.
Right.
We have no say here. The applicant who owns the land has come to us. They are the only ones who can ask us.
To rezone.
We want to rezone this from AG to PD.
Yep.
We are going to approve or disapprove them rezoning from AG to PD. That is
Can't
the
put
only
housing
say
in.
that we have.
No.
We can have,
Okay,
we can make a
can't put housing.
recommendation to the board, to
I
council.
missed somewhere that it could be housing.
We can make a recommendation to council that they not put this in sub-area 1 and that they can put it in sub-area 5, which includes all of the above.
Gotcha.
So
But it is, again, it's a recommendation
Anybody
to
wanna make-
council. This board doesn't have the final say. Don't slash my tires on the way out.
Yes. You want to tell them what car you drive? Does anybody on the board want to make a recommendation? A motion?
I'll make a motion to approve application 4-15-26 as written.
With the edits.
Yes, with the reference to chapter 1164 being fixed to 1165.
I'll second.
I need a vote from Brian,
Ryan?
Mark,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Kyle,
Yes.
and Todd.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, public hearing, item number 5, chapter 1165, plan development, text amendment. Recommendation to council needs to be made within 30 days. Just a reminder there for us. And again, this is a public notice, this is a public hearing. Any comments from the board before we move on hear from the applicant? Does anybody want to set the stage? You do a really good job with it. You're amazing.
All right, sorry, getting blood pressure back down. So, Chapter 1164 PD text amendment. This is a text amendment to the plan development, Chapter 1165, which is correctly referenced in title in itself. The exact text that has been changed, I believe, is in reference to how many acres, the size of what that PD district is, as well as having that sub-area inclusive of an additional being sub-area 1E in this instance.
Okay.
All else remains as the same, unless the applicant, who is very familiar with this as well, wants to correct me.
Yeah, I think we should hear from the applicant.
So, Aaron Underhill, Underhill and Hodge, once again. Technically, I would do want to be clear, we have made this request of the city. The city council is probably technically the applicant.
Yeah.
You've done us the courtesy of allowing us to pursue this, but, so this code amendment, there are a couple of things that we're trying to do here. One is to slightly modify the eligibility to add on to the PD district. The current language of the code and how it was written a couple of years back was that any property to be added to the existing PD district would need to be either under common ownership with something within the district, or the applicant would need to be the same applicant who applied for the original PD district. What we're finding is with some of the properties on what are now the perimeters of this, that there may be some properties that may want to be rolled into the PD, but that we may not be in contract to purchase. And we would like, if we're going to be providing, if we ourselves, the New Albany Company or the Johnstown Land Company, wants to add property to the PD district, the basic premise here would be, as long as we're part of it, if someone else wants to come along for the ride as a part of a master planning effort, we could bring them in along with us. So we feel like there are maybe some opportunities now that this thing is expanded a bit to bring others under the tent, and they may or may not be sellers and may have their own thoughts. So, but it kind of goes along in the vein of we think master planning is the best way to go about this, and rather than having things come in piecemeal, it would provide that opportunity. Jamie, I'd just like you to maybe bring the map back up. So that's the first thing, and that's the more minor of the two things, in my opinion, that we're looking for.
It's on the side. He was hiding.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So as we discussed at some length in the last application, we do have 3 sub-areas today under the PD district that would allow residential. We talked about the number of units, et cetera, but sub-area 3 is purely multifamily residential that's allowed right now as of right. We have a commercial and mixed-use area that would allow that as well. And then we have sub-area 5 here that was mentioned that is sort of an either-or situation where it can be chosen to bring sub-area 1 rights in or sub-area 4 rights in. Once that decision is made on that first development, the whole sub-area has to continue down that path, if that makes sense. As Jamie mentioned, the city and the New Albany Company have been able to really put themselves in the running for some projects that the state's trying to chase. There was one that was a really major job producer that we came in second for. And the only reason we lost out is it was to Texas, where the project already had a presence, and the company did. So we really feel like we're gaining some momentum, and our thought is later this year, we would like to come in and rezone the entire PD district to basically keep the rights like the one you just recommended approval on, and the rights in sub-area 1, but extend those to where the multifamily and commercial mixed-use sub-areas are. But in doing that, we still have a belief that if we're going to be bringing in jobs, the housing component needs to be able to remain. And so what this code change is going to allow for residential density transfers. So in theory, what we would do with that zoning is we would take the residential units that are here and we would do one of two things. And I've got to, I want you to listen to me before you start looking at my paperwork, so I'll hand that out in a second. But what we would plan to do is either A, as part of that zoning, we would say we want to take the units that are currently allowed here and we want to put them up into a cloud, so to speak, and they're going to hang there. And they would sort of hang there until such time as we found a replacement property, at which time we would identify that property, would have to rezone it, and ask to bring those units out of that cloud or that bank, we call it a housing bank, onto the new property. That decision is not a right, it's an ability to make that request. So this planning commission, the city council would have the ultimate say-so of if those units ever move anywhere. So if they deem the location where we want those units to go to be inappropriate, you tell us no. The other way this could happen is if we come in at that time and we put those units up into the bank, we deposit them into the bank, and we have another property at that time that we want to relocate some or all of them to, we would identify those at that time, and the same logic would apply in the same analysis. The planning commission and the council would make the determination as to whether those units are appropriate to be located somewhere else. So what it does is it, in the short term, would allow all of this to be put towards more job-producing and employment-generating uses that are good for economic development for the community, and then, but allow us the opportunity to place units in other places when appropriate. The other thing and last thing that this does is it would allow us as a part of that process to put in a formula to say that, well, one multifamily unit equals this many single-family units. So let's just use for an example, I think I maybe said every 2 multifamily units means 1 single-family unit. When we create that bank, we would put those rules into place as to what that formula would mean. And here again, that's discretionary on your all's part. If you don't like what we're proposing, you propose something else and we write it into the document. But the intent is to maintain some flexibility because we believe that residential development is part of a broader economic development plan. We think, for all the reasons Jamie has mentioned, that because Intel has slowed down and the amount of employees they're going to have, we don't feel like the market is as robust right here as it would be at one time, but we want to make sure that in the future we have the ability to provide other opportunities for housing to serve employees. So I'm going to hand out, these are double-sided, so just hand out several of those. Give you enough?
One more.
For you? Thank you.
We still need one more?
No photos of people going into a bank.
Mark, you want the-
So this is just a graphical depiction of these 2 scenarios that I mentioned for this housing bank. So what would happen is we would file an application for a rezoning and an amended preliminary development plan, which is what we're expecting. This is essentially a preliminary development plan under your code. It's kind of a bubble plan. We would identify the number of units we propose to be transferred, and we would identify the types of units we want to be transferred. And then it would begin a negotiation of, well, what do the multifamily units that we want to change into another type of unit mean? How are we going to change that equation? Because as Jamie mentioned, single-family unit has a much different impact on your community and school district than a multifamily unit does. We would, let's say that we wanted to move 150 units out of this PD and move them somewhere else. I think I actually did the math wrong here, but let's say it was 2 to 1, or 3 to 1, sorry, 3 multifamily units equal 1 single-family unit, then that would allow us to create 50 single-family units in another location, provided that you all agree that that location is appropriate. So process 1 and 2, the only difference between the two of those is that in one instance, we place the units into a bank for later use because we haven't identified another property yet to place them. Process 2 is where we would take those units and immediately transfer them to another property. But the important thing here with this code change is that it's only placing a process into play rather than saying that we're actually moving these units at all. It allows us to kind of create this opportunity in the shorter term to create more industrial development opportunities and employment generating opportunities, while then as the residential market materializes, allowing us later to determine where those units should go. So threw a lot at you there, but that's the concept.
Is it already predetermined how many multifamily and how many single are in that 1,200?
No,
Okay.
that would be part of the zoning negotiation.
Okay.
Yeah, also, just maybe I'm reading this wrong, but if you,
There's a typo where it says.
no, it ain't about math, believe me, I don't get that.
I'm
But
attorney
if,
on mathematician.
yeah, no,
So where it says on that front page, 2 multifamily units, where it says under the example, that should say 3.
okay,
Sorry.
no, you're good. My only question was about, I guess, it seems like you're adding. So like if I have 150 permitted multifamily units, right, and that transfers up into the cloud, that then gives you the ability to have, and to put it somewhere else, which, say, David Dunn's property, right? That would be an example of moving those to a location where there's probably already going to be housing. That way, to Dr. Wagner's point, we're not over inundating the schools.
Right.
But the result equals 150 less multifamily units allowed in existing PD. 50 single-family units may be developed on other properties. So does that take your 1,200 up to 1,250?
No, it actually
No, it
reduces
reduces
the
it
1,200 down to 1,050. And then the 50 would go on the other property, so there'd be a net of 1,100.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm, like I said, not good at word problems, so. Yeah.
The train leaves at 4 p.m.
Yeah, if council agrees that it's 3 multifamily to 1
Yep.
single family, then it
I
costs
got it
them
now.
3 for
I
1.
was just looking at wanted to make sure.
And these negotiations with these banks is with city council, correct?
Well, you would get the say, and at this board, we do the same thing we're doing.
Here?
Part of zoning.
Yes. We would make the recommendation, and then. the
It's still up to
has the
council, yeah.
options.
Yeah, okay.
And so the
I didn't
important
think
thing
we'd be
is
a part of
this-
it, but.
This code amendment is not setting any of those ratios, it's just providing a mechanism for us to have that conversation when the time comes.
And part of the reason why I'm going to be proactive about this is the area in yellow and pink right now, we think is a prime site for a potential economic development project. Those projects come really quick, and we'll find out about it on Tuesday, we got to submit on Thursday, and we want to get out ahead of it right now, so we have this process in place. We also don't want to be trying to be cute about just relocating these units that are currently entitled when we don't know really where the best place is. We want to work with the city to make sure that we're all aligned where this is going to be long-term. The city of New Albany has done something similar in the past. It was a little bit different because there was one landowner that owned the majority of the land, and they could have that residential density bank. By having this code and this process, we can transfer units outside of the planned development to other users that then puts the city in position to better negotiate without adding additional residential density into the overall bank of the city. So those are a couple of things, but we do think housing is going to be essential for economic development too, because when we meet with companies, they often want to know what's the day in the life like for an employee, what's their commute, where's the schools, and where's housing going to be. We don't necessarily, to attract businesses, have to have the housing built today, but we have to have a plan or of where we think housing's going to be, and the product types. So we want to try to best position the city as we try to sell to the companies who really want moving here.
All right, perfect. What's the timeline on this? So I remember, if I remember right, like the property has to be built before you can start the residential.
Yes, so I think there's some requirement in the PD district that some
purchase.
construction, or a purchase or construction start on some of the sub-area 1 property before.
You just got to equal the.
The truth of the matter is, if, with this process, one of the reasons we wanted to do this is if the code's going to take, even if we get your recommendation tonight, it has to go through city council, et cetera. It won't even be effective until probably August. Then we would have to file a zoning to create,
Yeah, that
to
process.
discuss everything here. So and then we have to move them to another site. And so the residential development that we thought was going to happen sooner is now going to happen much later and somewhere else if we can do this.
Right, yeah.
I think that's the big piece to look at too, is that everything has changed so much because, like Jamie mentioned in the beginning, Intel was full steam ahead 6 weeks prior to, they're like, we're opening doors 3 months ago, and now they're going to go on a vacation.
And
for a little while.
I appreciate the opportunity too, to not just be stuck with those 1,200 units and have other housing be developed all over the place, and then we're still stuck with that. And to be able to, put them in other areas would be nice.
And, it brings a tear to my eye that Dr. Wagner's leaving. 'Cause
Yep.
I love working with him. But I understand we've maybe got a replacement for him to try to fill his shoes, but you have our word that before we would do any of this, the first phone call we're making, probably after talking to some city council folks, is to talk to the school district. And we're not just going to come in and throw a number out there that isn't defensible and isn't workable for the schools. So they will always be part of our conversation as we move down this path.
All right.
Thank you, Aaron.
Any questions from the board?
No, just an overall understanding, we had, originally when it was all developed, we said you got to put so many houses per acre or something, right? Or 150 units, and now we're moving that down to 50 units.
1,200, it
And
was
they're gonna bank-
1,200.
Or it's
basically, is the-
negotiated.
Negotiated.
It's negotiated, and,
Which
but
is
it's
good.
basically going into a
High
bank to
capacity, low
decide how to
capacity.
best use
Yeah,
it and where to put
Put it
it.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it's also multifamily, which are apartments.
Yeah,
To
right.
single-family, which
Single-family
is a
houses.
house.
And we get a voice in the narrative, meaning we get
Yeah.
to talk about where, what.
Is there a precedent that we have to have multifamily somewhere, though?
No other questions from the board?
So the only thing that I can't say the only thing, one thing that I don't like is the up in the air of where the housing will land, the cloud piece of it. Where's that gonna land? I do like the fact that it will be
I mean, I can appreciate that, but.
brought back before us and also to
So many
city
options.
council as well. But if it lands somewhere, who knows, I don't know where that's gonna be.
I agree,
was my
I hear you, but like
Where does
to
it land or
decide a
doesn't it?
point right now would be silly, so like.
It's within a half.
Oh, no, right. But that's the unknown, though.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with that, but the unknown is, where's that gonna land?
Yeah.
And
It's
how is
within
that?
a half mile.
I think ideally, it would land in areas that are already planning to be developed as residential.
Was this the
Absolutely.
piece?
So, I mean, there are a lot of talks right now about property that's going to be turning into.
Go ahead, Mark.
Was this the piece that was decided for within a half mile of the current PD? Or it has attached with, or be within a half mile of the PD district?
That was the concept originally. This is expanding that a bit. But the point is, I think, so the Dunn property is the prime example.
Right.
I don't know, I don't represent Mr. Dunn or the Dunn family, but if they want X number of units, and that's what the community has said, that's probably acceptable. And then there was a plan from the school district's perspective for whatever it was, 3 units an acre, and then there's a plan here, if they want more density and they want to come in and try to convince you, one thing, we could work with them to try to get some of these units placed over there.
Yeah.
I also want you to know that when we deposit these into a bank, the subsequent decision as to where they go, if they sit there in that bank for 5 years, that's a zoning too. So that's also a negotiation. So There's no absolute right that when they're placed in the bank that they're going to come out and go anywhere in particular. So that would be, and so from our perspective, it'd almost be better if we came in the first time and told you where exactly we're going to put them, because then we know we have rights to them somewhere. But I don't see that happening, and we could try to identify a property and jam a number of units on there, probably going to be wrong. So the concept is, well, this at least buys us all that time and gives you all still the input later on with a separate application to move them to the appropriate location.
Awesome, thank you.
So this is what I was kind of asking before, is the number of acres, does that increase the radius of where that housing can go from the half mile to 2 to 2.5 miles?
What's going to be in the city?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be within city limits at that point
Yeah,
too,
it's
so then it would
gotta be-
technically have to.
So it's got to be congruent,
Limits, yeah, you're right.
so it's can only go so far.
Yeah, and I mean, Johnstown's only, yeah, I guess it's grown now, but it was 2.5 square miles, so it was not a very large area that it could be put within anyways. So then at that point, it's got to be touching any of the city limits in order for us to annex it in.
So that's why.
Or in order for the landowner to annex it in, and correct myself before I get yelled at.
Yeah, so we have actually
I knew it.
increased, you're right, we've increased it to 2 miles rather than a half mile, and that encompasses most of Johnstown.
Right, because this is the southernmost part that's been expanded, and it was 2 square miles up above, so.
So does that housing then have to land in Johnstown?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It also has to land within the school district.
And is
They
the
sell their
farm
bank
that
to
you were
somebody else?
mentioning, that's within
That's
that?
what they've talked about, just
That's
being able to,
most of
like,
it.
let's say that the Dunn property gets developed.
Oh, yeah.
They could give those
Well,
units to the
Not
Dunn.
without the city's permission.
No, they couldn't, because Cogwin,
to approve.
they own apartments around here that they haven't built on, could they say, oh yeah, we'll sell you even higher density or something, right?
The city still has to,
Still
it's
has
also
to-
go through
City has
council,
to
the city has to approve everything.
Public comment. All right, thank you. Public comment?
Where's the Dunn property at?
We need
Master
to.
Fair. Master Fair, Jersey.
Next to the high school.
Not your neighborhood.
And it's about 400 acres
Tim,
over
would you
there.
like to speak?
Yeah.
Right on there.
We're going to do the timer again. I know you love it.
And to be honest, it's been in talks for 20-plus
Tim
years.
Swalger, Johnstown. I think you guys already have a process. I'm a little confused by what the city gains by this. By putting 1,200 units in a cloud, anyone that wants to develop housing anywhere already has to come in and do it. So all you're doing is giving them the authority to control 1,200 units wherever they want them to go. Anyone that annexes in or wants to annex in and build homes already has to come to you and see it. So if you want to control housing, you've already got that authority. This just actually gives some of the authority away from what you currently have, because now you're guaranteeing them 1,200 units that they get to hold in their hand.
We already did.
And park only at that property, not anywhere else. If they want to develop that into something else, they lose the right to those homes.
But, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So
This is
they're-
public comment
yeah.
discussion, I apologize.
No,
Tim, I
you're
took up your
fine.
time.
Because now, what you can do is, if I want to develop my land, and you go, well, we don't have housing, I have to go then broker with them. You're allowing them to broker homes for the school, for the city. You're giving them the authority, not yourself. You're actually giving away your own authority when you do this. I don't see where the city benefits unless you're getting money. Are they giving the city money for future development for it? Otherwise, you're just giving them the authority to sell those houses at any market rate that they want, and you can't develop, and they can hold 1,200 units. We know from the schools what they can afford, basically housing units, right? They're going to hold 1,200 of those now. So you're going to control other housing with that. You're going to limit other property owners what they want to do, because if they hit that magic number and they're still holding 1,200 homes, you can't build anymore without the high school and everything. The other thing to be aware of, if you do a bank like that, 1-for-1's not even the same, because when we negotiated this originally, we talked about 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. 1- and 2-bedroom apartments generate a lot less kids than 3-bedroom apartments. So even if you go into multifamily versus single-family housing, you really have to look at the type and style, the price point. There's a lot that goes into it. When that was originally planned, that's why we talked about like 30-some kids, maximum of 60 coming out of there, because of the price point and the number of bedrooms in those. And they were limiting the number of 3-bedroom. If it goes into the cloud, it's not one multifamily for one multifamily. It's number of bedrooms and all that really gets it, and you can really chew up your housing, your student population in a hurry with that. So I just don't see what's the benefit to the city. I understand why they want it. I just don't understand what the city gets out of it, other than they control, you already have the authority for them to come in and you say no. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, I have a Alan Benton, Johnstown, Ohio. I kind of echo what Tim is saying, right? So like the Dunn family, right? We were at a presentation, they want to have like 1,200 homes. Okay, so what are they going to do? Get the entire, bank from New Albany Company and develop their property? So this is a situation where if the city wants to develop the Dunn property, develop the Dunn property, have them come to you, have them come up with a solution, a proposal for you to do. All you're doing by creating this bank is you're enriching the New Albany Company because it's giving them something that they can then sell to other developers in the area. And the New Albany Company is a business, all right? They're great partners, they're a great company. But in the same breath, they've decided that they want to take what was residential and turn it into industrial. Anyone would want to do that because industrial property is worth a lot more than residential property. So that's the reason why they want to do the industrial versus residential. And if you allow them to create this bank, you're just giving them another source of income, which is then this bank, because they can sell to other developers. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Philip Wagner, Johnstown Borough Schools. I know there may have been some additional questions. One of the things that I would emphasize in all this is making sure that we're working on these things strategically. Like in my head, when you start talking about moving housing banks around, that can become very expensive for a school district. Think about what a school bus is right now. A school bus for us can hold about 70 children in the elementary age. When we get to a high school, you're about 40-some students. A school bus route for us right now to generate one new route is about $100,000 to the school district. If you had, let's just say, 500 students, new housing, and it's interdispersed throughout the school district, your costs are much greater. If you have those clustered, we can get into more community stops. So there's just a lot to this that we would like to continue to work, as we always have with our partners in this. Alan Benton always says it's best, we don't really control a lot, but we can help influence. And, these are things like when we dig into the weeds, we need to really make sure that we're thinking about these things. Is there anything I can answer from before? I know you had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other comments from the board or from the city? No. So to Tim's point, I think he brought up a good point. What does that do? Before we hear from them, if we hear from them, I don't know. I kind of think it gives us more negotiation leverage having the bank, but that's me personally. Any thoughts on the board?
Mr. Sheridan, do you have some more background on this from the discussion with council or in general?
Yeah, my understanding is you're not giving anything to them that doesn't have value from the city standpoint, because we have to approve any change that's made. And so the change has to be in the best interest of the city as well as New Albany Company or Johnstown Company. So the city, originally, there was an issue of having enough housing because the initial project with Intel was going to have a lot of housing really close, and that's why it was developed that way. Now it's a different project. It makes sense to have some flexibility. The bottom line is no change can occur of any substance without the city's approval.
Yeah, I agree with that. Aaron?
Thank you. To Mr. Swiger's point, I would agree that the rules and regulations that apply to the units that can be built in this PD district were negotiated with the school district. And if I were in your shoes, I'd say, well, if you want them to go on the cloud, they go into the cloud with the same rules, right? And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. And that's the sort of thing that we would negotiate. We'll probably have a couple of pages worth of rules. And so that's how you deal with that issue. I think, from our standpoint, like with the New Albany example, New Albany has been planned for a certain number of homes on an overall gross basis in the whole community, right? Just like we've done in this PD, and that's kind of the basis for kind of where we came up with that, how we quantify the number of residential units to be allowed. But I do think if you as a community say we want, if someone else comes in and wants to build 300 units, wouldn't it be nice for them to come to us and use some of these 300 units? So on an overall basis, you're getting not the 1,200 plus the 300, you're getting something less than that. And so the intent here, I want to emphasize, is not to set the rules today. It's of what those units are going to look like or where they go. It's just to provide a process for us to have a dialogue and to make a decision sooner rather than later as to whether or not we do want this to go from residential and mixed use to industrial. This makes that a lot easier for us to make that decision and position a site for employment generating uses.
Thank you. I personally feel like the way I think about this and hear this is that I don't think New Albany, their company cares what we do, right? They don't care single, multi, they want to do what our community wants. I would like to talk to Tim, maybe get his perspective again if I could later, but I think it's valid stuff both ways.
Yeah.
But I still think though I get this bank thing, but by doing that, we can kind of have more of a seat at the table to say this is what we want, then things might end up there in our favor for what the community wants. But that's just me speaking out loud. I'm kind of an idiot, so.
Well, I think to bring up to the piece of the reason why they want to do this in the first place. We have two sections of the PD district currently that is 80 acres that they want to take from basically what can be built on for homes. And 1,200 homes at that in 80 acres, or 1,200 units inside of 80 acres. To me, that, I don't do math very well either, but that sounds like a very high density within that space.
It does. I agree.
So
We need to hire a
taking
math
that, and instead of shoving a whole bunch of houses right there, we can potentially have an opportunity for a company to come in, provide a lot of jobs on 80 acres worth of land that can be utilized for industrial purposes and bring jobs into the area.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that maybe I need to wait and think about this and review what Tim said and then come back to it later. So I'm leaning towards moving to table it. Yep.
Again, it's a public hearing, so it's going to be a public hearing, but then we have to make within 30 days.
Yeah, so we don't table it.
We don't need to table it. We can.
It's a public hearing.
But I just want to make sure we review everything. I know it's just a recommendation, but
Unless there's a motion otherwise.
I would
move to tabling this for right now.
I would like to make sure that we consider everything. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, so we just consider it again on the next agenda.
All right, so moving on, public hearing, chapter 1141, text amendment. Potential recommendation council needs to be made within 30 days. Let's start with you guys. I think it's a great place to start.
If you want to start talking, I'll shoot on that. Just for clarification, is it your very next meeting we'll be coming back to in a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. 2 weeks.
It's not unrealistic.
I believe I have to have it.
It's in half of it. What's
Okay,
that?
I'll make a motion to table.
Oh, you may, okay.
All right, I'll second it. Steve Dyer.
And not to backtrack you guys.
No, you're good.
I just reached out to Teresa. We do need to schedule a public hearing on number 4.
I'm sorry?
The application, it still needs a public hearing.
We had the public hearing tonight.
Okay, because I just reached out to Teresa. and she told me to schedule it.
So why would it be on the,
I thought that's what we were.
We
doing.
just had we had the public hearing and then we voted on it after the public spoke.
Okay,
We have the opportunity to have 2 public hearings
okay,
if we choose to table, and that's what we just did on 5.
okay.
So with 5, no, that's okay. No, you're not.
I
Not.
did reach out to Teresa.
No, you're fine. I appreciate it. Yeah, I know. So number 5, for your example, is that we had a public hearing.
Okay,
We're going to table it, which gives the public another opportunity to come up and talk again,
okay.
which is that public hearing. So, no, thank you,
you want to
Sean.
finish that
Thank you.
motion?
We're good.
Okay.
Well, we have to vote it, I guess.
Yeah.
I misheard what she was saying. I thought she was saying we needed a motion to table, but we don't.
Do you want to just, I think, are we all in favor on the
Yeah.
tabling here?
By consensus, you're going to
Yeah,
table.
we're going to table.
All in favor?
Oh, yeah, do you want to do it all in favor?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
We're so good at this.
Paid professionals, people. Paid
Hey, professionals, experts up here, guys.
It's past my bedtime.
All right, can you tell us about, it's past his bedtime, so can you tell us about
Okay,
this?
so this next one is really intended to help development pay its own way for infrastructure, and it's an amendment to your code that requires certain properties, most properties, if they're going to either be annexed into the city, or if they're going to be, if they're over 5 acres in size, are going to be zoned for, proposed to be zoned for something other than one single-family residence, that they will be required to join a new community authority.
Yeah.
And a new community authority is something that the city has already, city council has already approved and set up, but it is a voluntary, quote-unquote, voluntary charge. This will make it somewhat involuntary.
Right.
That in your community requires a development to pay 9.75 mils annually on top of their regular tax bill into a special fund to be utilized for public infrastructure costs, for funding and reimbursement of those costs. So the intent here, we've already made the commitment with our property that's in the PD district to do that. The intent is that when some of those utilities come out of the ground, I'll let Jamie speak to some of this here in a moment. But others that are going to be benefiting from this as well should have to pay their own way. And the city will have other opportunities throughout the community, even if they're not served by this infrastructure, but to benefit from other development coming and paying this charge. So it will have another funding source for other public infrastructure like road improvements and maintenance and things that it may need. So the whole intent behind this is, and this has been done in other communities, is to require in exchange for something the developer needs, like an annexation or a zoning, that they agree to do this.
So first I want to be clear that the city cannot make so if you're an existing property in the city cannot make you join an NCA. The only time somebody would be joining an NCA, theoretically anybody could join, but the only time anybody would actually join is when they're going in to rezone. So this is geared towards economic development projects. So the new community authority is established. I'm actually one of the board members and I think the vice president of the new community authority. The new community authority, the way it's established under Ohio law, the majority of the seats have to be representatives from the city. So the city has 4 seats right now of the 7 seats, and they will always have the majority. Anytime there's a vote, the city always has to have a majority in present or in the vote. So this, for example, is one project that we're working on that's coming down the pike for a new community authority. So new community authorities have to, by law, prioritize infrastructure. The new community authority in Johnstown, by law, has to prioritize infrastructure projects. So the money that comes in through the NCA can't just go straight to the parks. It has to be prioritized towards infrastructure. Now, once that infrastructure is paid off, there could be discretionary funds for other things. So, for example, this project right now, the New Albany Company's already paid 7 figures in engineering plans right now. It's going through final approval for the water and sanitary for the PD right now. We're waiting on the final OEPA approvals. But this is about $22–23 million in hard cost right now. If, for example, so the quicker we pay down the debt on the money, the quicker the city then, once whoever owns the bonds, whether it's the New Albany Company or somebody else, whoever owns the bonds, once it's paid back, then the city, this NCA fee goes on indefinitely. It doesn't burn off. So it's on somebody's tax bill forever. And those funds will, once the debt's paid, the funds go to the city. The quicker the debt is retired, the quicker the city gets money. Having one new community authority aligns interests between everybody, between the city and the private development. So for example, just because it's on the screen, if somebody decided to come in and develop Khyber Run for residential or something, and they wanted to tap into these water and sanitary lines, but they didn't pay for it. The city's saying, if you want the rezoning, you have to join the NCA, you have to pay the NCA fee, and then help pay down a proportionate share of the debt so that everybody's interests are aligned, so that somebody can't just tap into infrastructure that benefits them that they're not paying for, because ultimately it just hurts the city, because then the city's not getting the funds. So that's the concept. And I don't know who, the city is the city actually applicant on this? Or are we?
Same as the last
The same,
one.
so technically the city is the applicant, and we were asked to help see this through and shepherd this through, because it's a way to align the private interest between everybody. And what we don't want to do is create various infrastructure NCAs, because then you could have competing infrastructure projects in different funds. You know, how do things get prioritized? By having one fund that the city oversees, it helps align everybody. So.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just had one comment. With the Johnstown Land Company being a representative of the city, basically, the city did not ask for this application of one single NCA. The Johnstown Land Company is.
Well, technically, who is the applicant?
Because I know we've discussed it briefly, but we didn't agree to having one single NCA yet, right?
So this is like the last one. We have had discussions with the city about this in the city council, because of just the way these processes work. They would typically initiate a code amendment. We are advocating for a single one. That's not to say city council has, because you will ultimately have a hearing on this yourselves and make.
Correct. So not necessarily the city, but
That's
correct.
right.
Okay, just wanted to be sure, because I do want to continue the conversation. I just didn't want to make the public think the city was asking for it. No, you're good, Jamie.
Thanks, Kyle. Any comments, questions from the board? Any public comment? Come on up, Tim.
Mine's more of a general question for you.
Ooh.
Is the NCA, sorry.
Yes, please use the microphone, because people at home want to know what we're saying.
Tim Swalger. I did have the question on who is the applicant for the NCA, because if it's the city doing it, they can technically appoint all 7 board members. If it's public-private partnership, it's 4 board members. So it is critical for you guys to understand which one you're entering
Right.
into, because it's control of the NCA.
Correct.
Is determined by that. So that was a good question. I just want to make sure you guys understood by law, there are differences by who initiates the petition.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that.
So one question I did have, when you were talking about tapping into lines, are you talking about like tapping into the sewer and water lines?
Yeah.
There's tapping fees.
That's correct. The tap fees would still go to the city.
Okay. And so what were you?
The NCA is an additional,
An
additional on top of the tap fee that will continue with each business that comes in there. He's simply stating that no one can tap into our water lines without paying that NCA that is a business, that's coming into the
So the NCA
area.
is separate from the tap fee?
Yes.
That is
Okay, that's
correct.
what I wanted to clarify,
Yep.
that
The
that was
city,
still occurring.
if somebody comes in to rezone, the city still would have the power to negotiate to join the NCA, but by doing this code revision, it makes it more clear for end users.
All right, any comments from the city? Anything to add?
I think it makes sense for the city to have a uniform policy on the infrastructure that's being developed as a part of this development.
Harumph, I agree with that. All right. Decision time.
Can we make a motion?
I will make a motion to,
Recommend approval.
yeah, exactly. Make a motion to approve the text amendment to Chapter 1141.
I'll second it.
And the vote from Brian,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Kyle,
Yes.
and Tom.
So can I clarify, is this included with this?
No.
No, that was a different one.
Okay, yes.
Motion passes.
Other business, moving on. Tim? Okay. I love you, I appreciate you guys speaking, it means a lot to us. It's not very often do we have people come in, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Did you want to bring back?
Without hearing anything else, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in,
What's that, Tom?
It's essential. Public. Make comments and such.
No, I think I got really confused.
it's always confusing.
Came up and spoke in the middle, I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
he was a whole nother piece.
I agree, it's good.
Pick up on it.
I like that we had interaction.
That's why Mark's here.
We need to,
It's-
he's supposed to feel that there needs, I think that would clear a whole lot.
Thank you.
Who seconded the motion to approve, to adjourn?
Better way to communicate out to people that things are happening.
Oh, wait, this has nothing to do with it. What's he saying? I'm like, oh, okay.
Good, yourself, sir? Kyle Cook.